Hello friends. Welcome back to Wonderfully Made Bible Stories for Children. Last time, we heard how King David showed kindness to someone who had been forgotten. We saw that God cares about mercy, faithfulness, and love. Today, our story takes us to the later years of David's life. David had been king for a long time. God had helped him through battles, mistakes, forgiveness, and victory. Now David was older, and it was time to prepare Israel for the future. Who would be the next king? And what does God care about most in a leader? Let's find out. As the years passed, King David grew older. He was no longer leading the army into battle, but he was still leading God's people with wisdom. David knew something very important. Israel did not belong to him. It belonged to God. So David began preparing for what would come next. He helped organize the people, the priests, and the worship leaders. He gathered supplies for the temple that would one day be built, even though he knew he would not be the one to build it. David understood that his role was not to hold on to power, but to pass things on faithfully. As he prepared for the future, there was an important question. Who would be the next king? David had many sons. Some of them thought the crown should belong to them. But David did not choose the next king based on strength, age, or ambition. David remembered how God had chosen him. Not because he looked like a king, but because of his heart. David shared with the leaders of Israel that God had made his choice. The next king would be Solomon, David's son. Solomon was young and did not seem powerful. But David trusted that God knew what he was doing. Before David died, he spoke to Solomon. David reminded Solomon to walk in God's ways, to obey him, and to lead with a faithful heart. David knew that being king was not about power, it was about obedience. David also spoke to the people of Israel. He encouraged them to support Solomon and to keep following God together. David's life showed something very special. Even though he was not perfect, he finished his life trusting God. David's story reminds us that God cares about our hearts from beginning to end. He cared when David was a shepherd boy. He cared when David was king. And he cared when David was preparing to step aside. God's plans don't stop when one leader's story ends. He keeps working through families, generations, and faithful hearts. David could have chosen someone who looked the strongest or most impressive. Instead, he trusted God's wisdom and helped prepare the next leader. Let's pause and think together. Have you ever had to trust someone else to lead? Is it easy or hard to let go and trust God with the future? Who could you encourage or help, just like David helped Solomon? David's story teaches us that real leadership isn't about being in charge forever. It's about being faithful, humble, and willing to help others even when it's not your turn anymore. Remember, God cares more about humility, obedience, and trust than strength or success. Thank you for joining me today for a very special episode. Our 50th story together. Next time, we'll meet Solomon, the new king of Israel. We'll see what happens when God gives him a very special gift, and how wisdom can help a leader make good choices. Until then, remember, you are wonderfully made, and God is with you every step of the way. Bye for now.